Destiny 2 has a huge problem that no one seems to be addressing. Let me first start off by saying I've been playing Destiny since day one. I've stood strong by the game's original questionable launch quality. I waited eagerly for every new expansion, and I felt overcome with joy when Destiny started to feel like the game we were all promised all those years ago. By the time Destiny 1 was coming to a close, I had faith in Bungie to deliver an excellent package with Destiny 2. All the marketing and live streams leading up to the launch painted Destiny 2 as a love letter to fans and a great way for new players to join in on the action. Fast forward a couple months and we can clearly see this is not the case. It's probably safe to assume at this point you're aware of the issues surrounding Destiny 2, things such as the marketplace, a series of pitiful attempts at post-content, and sneaky systems hidden within the game designed to disadvantage players. We've become so fixated on these things that it has completely distracted us from the real issue with Destiny 2. That being, Destiny 2 is quite simply a glorified Destiny 1 expansion with absolutely none of the benefits of being one. One of the biggest issues players have with Destiny is the lack of content, so let's take a look at what Destiny 2 actually brings to the table. I remember prior to the game's release, it was hammered into us that Destiny 2 was going to have more story than we'd ever see before, so much in fact, that apparently we'd be complaining that there was too much. While I completely agree that Destiny 2 does feel like it has more story than vanilla Destiny 1, that doesn't mean there's anything to rave about either. I won't be discussing in this video exactly why the story isn't particularly great, instead I want to focus on what it adds, and to be quite honest, it's not a whole lot. The Destiny 2 campaign makes up about 8 hours of gameplay, though it can feel longer by unnecessary level restrictions put in place to stretch out that running time. In terms of impact on Destiny's main story arc of the Traveler versus the Darkness, there is absolutely none, apart from a tiny teaser following completion of the main campaign. All the characters end no better or worse than where they started. It feels very inconsequential. The ending is no more satisfying in any way than Destiny 1 or most prior expansions, and those weren't really good anyway. Ultimately, it makes the whole campaign kind of feel pointless, like I've spent the last few hours playing through an overly stretched out side quest. In terms of additional content, the game has adventures, which for the most part are missions involving heading to a spot and scanning something. It's not very compelling. Lost sectors are another alternative, which are rather bland caves or dungeons containing a powerful enemy. So what else do we have? A couple small public events, and arguably the best or worst, depending on your tolerance level, part of Destiny, the raid. All of these things taken into consideration, you're looking at around maybe 22 hours of content. At first that might not sound too bad, but when we stack it up against Destiny 1's first major expansion, The Taken King, the warning signs start to appear. The Taken King added a variety of new content such as a new story, side quests, a raid, and 3 brand new subclasses. You would need about 30 hours to experience all the things this expansion had to offer. So how can it be that Destiny 2 offers less to do than an expansion of the same franchise, yet charges $60, the full price tag on top of it? It just simply does not add up. Now I know at this point there will be a few people saying, hey, but Destiny was never about the story, it's about fun gameplay. And as a Destiny fan, I can somewhat agree with that. Looking solely at the gameplay of both games, what improvements can we actually see? Shooting in Destiny has always felt great, and Destiny 2 is just the same. But I would strongly argue that there is next to no change between the two games. This isn't a criticism, of course, as the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Another important part of Destiny's gameplay is the class system. Destiny gave the option of 3 classes, Titans, Warlocks, and Hunters. In the original game, the classes felt varied, and each offered a unique style of play. It also provided specific roles in the in-game content. In Destiny 2, this is not the case. Aside from adding specific abilities for each type of character, Bungie has done nothing to improve this section of the game. Actually, I would argue that it has never been worse. The new subclasses feel like nothing more than dumbed-down versions of their Destiny 1 counterparts. In place of customizable abilities, we're given the option to pick either build A or B. The variety is all but gone, and with class roles being less important in a fire team, it takes away from your sense of individuality and value to a team. This seems like an incredibly large, missed opportunity for Bungie. Why didn't they make any worthwhile changes to the class system, or maybe develop a new one, for the new game? It would have been the perfect time for each class to feel like it served a specific purpose and remove so much homogenization. For example, Titans being more tanky and Warlocks buffing and healing party members and Hunters being speedy assassins, it just makes perfect sense. A new game would have been the perfect time to do this. Instead, we have this oversimplified mess which only adds to the feeling that this game is a half-cocked expansion instead of an epic sequel that we all wanted. Destiny 2's bare-bones gameplay iteration needed more innovation to remain not only just relevant and fun, but exciting and new. It seems like the biggest differences between Destiny 1 and 2 can be felt from a technical standpoint. Similar to the changes to gameplay, it does feel like the systems behind the game have been watered down as well too though, perhaps to appeal to a larger target audience. Progression within the game has received a completely new overhaul from the original. In favor of tiered activities from Destiny 1 that rewarded better gear for harder content, Destiny 2 instead opts for a token and loot box system. This system is absolutely ludicrous for serious players. These tokens can be earned for doing pretty much any activity in the game. This takes away from the need to play high-end content due to the fact that any and everything rewards gear of the same level with only a different style attached. I find it very interesting that this new system did not receive a bigger backlash, to be honest. It's almost identical to the system we see in Star Wars Battlefront 2, minus the ability to buy loot boxes with real cash, but hey, the point remains. If Bungie looked back on aspects of their previous games that worked and other games, they would have noticed that making loot, missions, and raiding individual and crucial to progressing through the game, then they would have seen that it helps give people purpose and replayability. When the biggest changes brought to Destiny 2 destroy any sense of drive to play this game and diffuse the sense of progression, it really highlights how the game would have benefited by being simply an expansion to the previous game. At the start of the video, I said that Destiny 2 was a glorified expansion with none of the benefits. That it has a poor amount of content, reuses too many assets and systems from the previous game, and doesn't do enough to impact the game's progression or class system. Can we honestly say that Destiny 2 does enough to warrant itself as being a brand new, fully priced game? Destiny 2 would have been an excellent opportunity to build on everything the previous game had achieved, not to just iterate, but to innovate. Destiny 2 was a chance to introduce interesting new mechanics, enemies, as well as finally give us more story that we've been crying out for from the game's original release, and to make us work for what we want and give us that sense of achievement that people crave. I know as of the time of this video, Bungie has attempted to improve some of the features in the game, but for many of us, the damage is done. At this point, I hope that Destiny 2 gets pushed back in the right direction, but for the time being, I think I'll keep my distance. I've realized the big issue with Destiny 2 that nobody mentioned. It's simply Destiny 1.5. But hey, I'm not the only one in this community with an opinion, so go ahead and drop your opinion below on Destiny 2. Have a great day, guys, and shout out to all those supporting what we do here. Hope you're having a great start to your New Year's, and we'll see you in our next video.